Welcome to the McSnare Report. I'm Phil, and Season 2 is officially in high gear. The tour buses are rolling, the scores are climbing, and the rivalries are starting to take shape. We have 10 days of fierce competition to break down right now. Dark Knights vaulted 3 places to second, just 98 thousandths behind Dragon Corps, with Open's top 3 inside 1 point. And a classified rehearsal report has landed on our desk. If Morensic reproduces that number tonight, Open Class has a brand new emergency. Also tonight, Darcy takes us to Concord, tracking 10 cores, 2 massive class battles, and score margins so razor-thin they will break your heart. Lexi breaks down this week's platform updates with her usual sunny disposition. And Trey is on the road, Marcus has the grid, and together they will light up the next 7 days. The numbers are live, the tour routes are drawn, and the drum majors are on the podium. Let's get to it. Before we head to Concord, we need to welcome 7 cores making their first appearance in Season 2. All 7 have entered A class, apparently after looking at Open Class and deciding they preferred to begin life with access to oxygen. Welcome Top City from Topeka, Kansas, under Director GT Racing 12. White River Regiment from Fishers, Indiana, under Director Baritone 108. Spirit of Valhalla from Dayton, Ohio, under Director DJ Blitz. The Steelman from Pueblo, Colorado, under Director I'm Rye. 906 Red Stars from Houghton, Michigan, under Director Northern Knights. Atomic City Legion from Richland, Washington, under Director Wanna Burger. And Gulf Knights from Biloxi, Mississippi, under Director Nate Plays Drums. 7 new cores, 7 directors entering the Season 2 field, and 7 additional reasons to refresh the standings instead of completing whatever task currently pays your electric bill. Welcome to the league. We are thrilled you are here, and the refresh button appreciates your service. They also arrived during the exact moment this season stopped politely entering the room and kicked the door off its hinges. On D3, the circuit recorded 6 performances. 1 day later, D4 produced 14. A class went from 2 performances to 8. Open Class climbed from 4 to 6, and the cumulative active field expanded from 13 cores to 18 in 24 hours. That is not gradual growth. That is a housing site emergency. D4 brought the first Season 2 scores for Dragon Corps, Morensic Minutemen, Southern Sound, West Coast Guardians, and 906 Red Stars. Dragon, Morensic, Southern Sound, and West Coast Guardians returned from Season 1. 906 Red Stars arrived as a brand new ensemble and immediately discovered there were already 13 other cores blocking the loading zone. By the end of last night's shows, all 21 active cores had posted at least 1 verified score, 10 in Open Class and 11 in A Class. The circuit is no longer waking up. It is awake, overbooked, and asking who moved its equipment truck. And nowhere did that expansion feel more real than Concord, where 10 cores, 1 host, and several metric tons of rolling hardware all attempted to occupy the same Saturday. Earlier, we sent Darcy into the middle of it.
Well, y'all, let me tell you, when I rolled into that parking lot on Saturday, you could have bottled the electricity and lit up all of Northern California. It was gorgeous chaos. The front ensemble frames were rattling the pavement. The brass arcs were echoing clear across the county. And bless their hearts, staff members were praying to the drum corps gods just to make their gate time. I spent Saturday right in the thick of it at the 2nd Annual East Bay Classic, and we have to give a huge shout out to our host, Walk On, who also happens to be the director of the West Coast Guardians, one of our returning corps from last season. Because I guess running a competitive drum corps just wasn't enough to keep a person busy on a Saturday, they invited everyone to Concord. Before the first score ever hit the board, that lot was busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. It was an absolute blur of rolling hardware, snapping silks, and laser focus. Everybody had somewhere to be, something heavy to push, and absolutely no time to dilly-dally. And by the end of the night, Lord have mercy, had that hustle paid off because A-Class brought the heat. The hometown heroes, West Coast Guardians, took the win with a 48.78. But Sugar, you have got to look at the battle for silver. The Steelmen grabbed second with a 47.64, just barely beating the Gigglers at a 47.20. Behind that photo finish, Shadow Regiment landed fourth with a 44.43, and their 10.16 in percussion was the strongest individual caption anywhere on their sheet. Atomic City Legion took fifth with a 37.84, and Gulf Knights finished sixth with a 36.21. And those last two somehow posted the exact same 9.86 in music analysis. Honey, even the lower half of this recap came with a subplot. And here is what made those top three so dangerous. They were not fighting the same fight. West Coast Guardians topped General Effect with a 20.05. The Steelmen owned the A-Class visual sheet with a 14.54. And the Gigglers blew the doors off music with a 15.90. 3 cores, 3 completely different weapons, all crammed inside 1.58 points. Now look at the fight for second. The Steelmen carried a 1.07 advantage in General Effect and another 1.16 in visual. The Gigglers came roaring back with a 1.79 advantage in music. When the sheet finally stopped swinging, the Steelmen were still standing by 44 hundredths. Honey, that is tighter than a brand new pair of marching shoes. That is not a score sheet. That is a tug of war with decimal points. And that Giggler's music number was no one-night accident. From Mankato, Minnesota, 5 days earlier, to Concord, they climbed from a 13.78 to a 15.90, a 2.12 surge. Brass alone rose 1.73. Music analysis climbed 1.50, and percussion gained 1.01. With these cores improving this fast, every single tenth is going to matter in the coming weeks. And if you thought A-Class brought the smoke, Open Class came in breathing fire. Dragon Corps planted a 55.15 at the top of the board, with the Fogwalkers taking second at 50.83. Altitude landed third with a 48.71, just 2.12 behind the Fogwalkers. Southern Sound took fourth with a 46.48, and do not sleep on that music score. Their 15.62 was only 54 hundredths behind Dragon Corps' class-leading music total. Southern Sound brought a flamethrower. Unfortunately, they tried to fight a dragon. That was a 4.32 victory for Dragon Corps, Sugar. They did not crack the door open. They kicked it clean off the hinges. But do not mistake second place for standing still. From opening day in San Bernardino to Concord, the Fogwalkers climbed from 42.41 to 50.83, an 8.42 launch, with General Effect up 4.02. The Fogwalkers got a whole lot better. Dragon Corps just went supernova. After what I saw in Concord, A-Class is shaping up to be a heavyweight brawl, and Dragon Corps just fired a warning shot measuring 4.32 points across Open Class. All 10 corps came to compete, and nobody is backing down a single inch. Phil, I am sending it back to you in the studio.
This just in, we have a rapidly developing situation on the national map. As of 00 hours, Podium now hosts 5 formally named leagues. League commissioners publicly insist this is a peaceful collaboration, and we have absolutely no evidence of an impending turf war. We do, however, have a tactical map painted in 5 aggressive colors, multiple disputed border zones, and dangerously low levels of adult supervision. The latest mobilization comes from the Northern Corps Alliance, which deployed across the upper Midwest and Great Plains this week. They have formally organized 9 states, plus Northern Illinois and Indiana, citing the completely reasonable cover story of closer competition and lowered travel costs, a highly practical civilian idea, which makes the following completely fabricated tactical reconstruction deeply alarming. Before the colors, the map was quiet. 48 states. 47 available for coalition control. Texas had already preemptively declined comment. Fantasy Corps United did not enter diplomatic negotiations so much as stage an overwhelming ground assault of magenta highlighter. Deploying out of Kentucky, their influence swept coast to coast, establishing continental dominance before abruptly halting at the Texas border, as if sensing a trap. Then, the East Corps Coalition opened an Atlantic front. ECC Blue pushed aggressively west. FCU held the center. In the trenches where neither side blinked, stripes appeared, the international cartographic symbol for "Our commissioners will discuss this in a private Discord channel." The Western Corps Coalition immediately countered from the Pacific and the Rockies. WCC Teal rolled eastward. 3 massive spheres of influence collided in the heartland, and the map began to look less like a marching tour and more like a referee suffering a clerical emergency. Meanwhile, Class secured a localized northeastern beachhead because no continental crisis is truly complete until at least 2 states form a breakaway treaty organization. Finally, the Northern Corps Alliance descended from the north. NCA forces hit the map, meeting the teal, blue, and magenta lines. Borders hardened into concrete. New stripes emerged. When the dust settled, 5 leagues were left staring at one another across a continent that has devolved into a massive conflict resolution pattern. To be abundantly clear, nobody invaded anything. No league has formally declared war, seized sovereign territory, or usurped competitive authority. This is merely a dramatization. A very tasteful dramatization with excellent border contrast. And through every advance, every skirmish, and every treaty, Texas remains untouched. Not unwanted. Untouched. According to our entirely fabricated diplomatic sources, every single league desperately wants Texas. But nobody wants to be the poor soul to tell Texas directors they have been claimed. Out of respect for Texas director autonomy and a healthy, terrifying understanding that Texas could simply found a 6th league before anyone blinked an eye, every arrow stops dead at the border. Texas remains a heavily observed, completely neutral buffer state that is absolutely not taking questions. As of airtime, no buses have mobilized. No rehearsal blocks have crossed enemy lines. All 5 leagues continue to broadcast that this is strictly about collaboration. We will continue to monitor this rapidly developing non-crisis. If your corps remains diplomatically unaligned, visit the Leagues tab at marching.art to browse the available leagues and sign up. Choose carefully. The map is watching. Marching.art released 10 site updates this week, which is either a very productive development cycle or a cry for help written in patch notes. For more, we go to Lexi. Lexi, what changed?
Phil made me read 10 updates. I hated all of them. The website is slowly learning object permanence, the concept of time, and geography. Soon it will gain sentience and destroy us all. Until then, here is some stuff that only band nerds care about. First, scoring projections in Fantasy and Podium now ignore old, broken values and unscored zeros. The ghosts of your old dead scores have been exorcised, which is a bummer because I was rooting for the ghosts. Editing your weekly Podium picks will also stop secretly deleting shows you already did. When a show happens, it stays on your tour map forever as a permanent stain on your permanent record. Also, the weekly cap loophole is closed. Cheating is dead. The world is a prison. And a Podium clinician boost now officially dies at the end of its final active day. Time is a flat circle, but at least your fake instructors will finally leave you alone. Podium and Fantasy have been separated across the interface. They are now 2 distinct games. This means you can be a miserable failure in 2 completely separate realities at the exact same time. Prestige titles also require you to finish actual seasons now. You cannot just stumble into being immortal over the weekend. The old immortals have been grandfathered into eternity, where they will remain trapped forever. Which sounds like a fun curse. Now I have to talk about geography and moving around. Podium directors can buy airplane tickets with fake money on qualifying long-haul trips now, so their fake marchers do not lose as much stamina. If you cannot afford the flight, they suffer on a bus. I supported the more suffering part, but nobody listened. Also, practicing with another corps will not randomly teleport you to their city anymore. Teleportation is banned. Friendship is still allowed, unfortunately. And Podium corps now have an official home city that anchors the tour route and travel pricing. Continuing directors do have a relocation option, but apparently even imaginary geography comes with terms and conditions. Good luck escaping. there is one small problem. Podium cores are now eligible for director-hosted shows. The administrator says the attendance display is fixed. Fantasy League cores are visible. Podium cores are still completely invisible to the human eye. So no, regular mortals cannot perceive your Podium core's existence at director-hosted shows still. I am actually really happy about this. I have plans for an army of ghost Podium bands. Podium-only directors can use the press release composer now, which means I have to pretend to care about someone's manifesto concerning a piece of painted vinyl. I will not. And finally, the Hall of Champions now shows actual core graphics for champions and finalists instead of lonely letters, including backfilled past seasons. Their brands will stare at you forever. Even history is watching. So, to summarize, ghosts were eradicated, time is real, the games got divorced, airplanes exist, teleporting is illegal, and people can blog about tarps. I am going to put on my headphones now. Don't look at me, Phil.
Thank you, Lexi. We will continue monitoring the ghost band situation. Now let's move from invisible cores to a standings race so visible it may require protective eyewear. 10 days are in the books. All 21 active cores have a score, and both classes have developed serious boundary issues. Darcy left Concord with Dragon Core breathing fire down everyone's necks, and the Fogwalkers refusing to go away, no matter how many times they were asked. Last night, the Dark Knights arrived in Dubuque and drove a tour bus directly through the middle of that storyline. The Dark Knights posted a 53.78 at Music on the March, up 4.50 points from their previous score of 49.28 on D7. That single performance launched them 3 places up the official standings from 5th to 2nd, and 2nd is now located 98 thousandths behind Dragon Core. Dragon Core holds first at 53.874. Dark Knights sits 2nd at 53.776. The Fogwalkers are 3rd at 52.880. The entire open class top 3 is packed inside just 0.994 points, less than 1 point. 3 cores, absolutely no respect for personal space. Dark Knights did not manufacture that jump with one miraculous caption either. From this past Saturday to last night, their general effect rose 1.59 points. Visual climbed 1.46, and music gained another 1.44. The improvements arrived everywhere at once, like a very well-thought-out chess opening. On the official snapshot, Dark Knights actually lead Dragon Core in general effect by a mere 0.10 points, 21.97 to 21.87. Dragon answers with the narrowest possible advantages in the visual and music captions, 400ths in visual and 1600ths in music. Dragon Core still owns the throne. Dark Knights have simply parked a siege engine 98 thousandths of an inch from the front door and begun ringing the doorbell. The Fogwalkers remain less than 9/10ths behind Dark Knights after reaching 52.88 points in Boise. Darcy already showed us their climb through Concord. Last night's show added another 1.57 points. They are no longer chasing one leader. They are standing inside a 3-core pileup where one strong result could rearrange the entire podium. Open class has gone from a duel to a hostage situation. Naturally, the directors have begun issuing statements. Southern Sound Director Blazer2408 says, "Southern Sound has not had the best start to the season, but our music scores are high, and we aim to build our strength and rush to the top." The record supports the director's music claim. Southern Sound's 15.84 is tied with Dark Knights for second highest music on the open class standings, behind only, you guessed it, Dragon Core at 16.00. Unfortunately, Southern Sound's 11.08 in visual is currently the lowest in open class. Marcus Sterling was going to do a segment on their guard, but he just couldn't stomach it. Southern's engine has arrived, but their tires are still in separate counties, and that imbalance has produced one of the most absurd pressure points on the board. Southern Sound sits in 8th place at 47.449. Marinsek Minutemen sit 9th at 40.442, 7 thousandths apart. Southern Sound leads Marinsek by 1.17 in general effect and 1.89 in music. Marinsek answers with a 3.06 advantage in the visual captions and nearly erases both. Blazer 2408's bravado seems to be keeping them on the top side of this minuscule molehill battle, but a conveniently leaked document may soon turn that molehill into Marinsek Mountain. The heading reads, Tale of the Tape, Day 9, Springfield, Massachusetts. Marinsek Minutemen versus Corps of Unspecified Identity. This is a private joint rehearsal scrimmage report, usually kept between the participating directors to help them gauge where they may need to focus in the coming days. This one, however, is conveniently public and completely unhinged. Marinsek's rehearsal total is 57.329. Corps of Unspecified Identities Director, Chris, admitted they got their behinds kicked, and it shows with a 50.142. The displayed gap is 7.187, and the Minutemen are higher in all 8 captions. General Effect 1, plus 1.65. General Effect 2, plus 1.86. Visual Proficiency, plus 0.51. Visual Analysis, plus 1.59. Color Guard, plus 1.19. Brass, plus 1.16. Music Analysis, plus 1.96. Percussion, plus 0.93. As the rumors in the lot grew, one director implied that this was not a tale of the tape. This was a mogging. Again, this number is private rehearsal intelligence. Marinsek's only official Season 2 result remains 47.44 from D4. The 57.329 does not count, does not change the standings, and does not prove what will happen under an actual judging panel. But Marinsek performs tonight at Drums of Fire in Salem, Oregon. If even most of this rehearsal report survives contact with a real score sheet, Marinsek does not merely move up from 9th. Henusaki and crew could change the entire open class conversation. Henusaki previously told us not to count the Minutemen out. We assumed that was ordinary director confidence. We did not realize they were foreshadowing a siege-breaking invasion. Elsewhere, the open class group chat has entered its point litigation phase. The Fogwalkers directors F-Bake looked at Nemesis's early season performance and delivered the competitive equivalent of patting them on the head. The implication was essentially, "Oh look, Nemesis is participating this season. How cute." Nemesis director Courier immediately replied, and this part is verbatim, "Hey, we have increased our score 11 points." The official record shows Nemesis rising from 29.12 on D3 in Cincinnati to 40.07 at the Beanpot on Monday. That is 10.95 points. Which means the defense has called arithmetic to the stand. And, against all expectations, arithmetic has corroborated the testimony. Rounded to the nearest whole point, that is 11. The court withdraws the charge and specializes for the inconvenience. That is when Black Gold's director entered as an ominous expert witness. According to BMW-i3 Fanatic, Courier has a storied history of keeping a core quiet early and producing surprise moves late in the season, and that reputation reaches back well before last season. But Nemesis did not answer the condescension with a denial. They answered with a receipt, and then somebody else supplied the legend. Nemesis did not perform last night and remains 10th, 7.369 behind Marinsek's official standing. But a 10.95-point rise means last place is not standing still. They are just crouched behind the furniture while 3 veteran directors argue about what Nemesis might do next. Black Gold, meanwhile, posted a 50.02 last evening in Cranston, Rhode Island, and holds 4th. Golden Wave Core sits 5th at 49.562, only 0.453 back. While Black Gold was checking the rearview mirror of their i3 for Nemesis, Golden Wave quietly pulled up beside the driver's window. And Corps of Unspecified Identity holds 7th at 48.049, 0.62 behind Altitude, and 0.60 ahead of Southern Sound. They have finally achieved a specific identity: competitive traffic. Open class now has a 3-core fight at the top, a half-point fight in the middle, a 7/1000ths disturbance near the bottom, and 1 successful appeal before the Department of Aggressive Rounding. That would be enough instability for 1 episode, but A class declined to cooperate. At Music on the March last night, Spirit of the Raiders delivered a 52.32, climbed 2 places, and took over first in A class. That score is 4.30 points above their previous 48.02 in Pittsburgh on D5. GE rose 1.60, Visual gained 0.92, and Music surged 1.79 points. And unlike the open class pressure at the top, this result came with the leading challengers performing in the same stadium. Spirit of the Raiders won with a 52.32. White River Regiment finished second at 51.64. The Gigglers followed at 50.23 points. White River actually led Spirit in Visual by 1/10, 15.18 to 15.08. Spirit answered with a 0.19 advantage in General Effect and a 0.60 advantage in Music. When the total settled, Spirit of the Raiders held the show by 0.68. Music did not merely help. Spirit's music captions arrived with the paperwork and changed the locks. Spirit of the Raiders now leads the official A-class standings at 52.323. White River Regiment is 0.686 behind. The Gigglers are another 1.406 back in third. The returning Season 1 core has not simply resurfaced. It walked into a 6-core field, won the night, and took control of A-class. The result also triggered the traditional post-game ceremony, aggressive league recruitment. According to participant chatter, Fantasy Corps United organizer BMWI3 Fanatic and co-commissioner Henusaki moved immediately to recruit Spirit director J. Mike. Apparently, first place comes with a score, a medal, and 2 FCU representatives waiting beside the equipment truck with an enrollment form. There is the fascinating coincidence that the recruiting department discovered J. Mike at the precise moment Spirit of the Raiders became number 1. Because last season, Spirit dropped 6 places from prelims to semifinals, missed the finals cutoff, and missed promotion to open class. At that particular moment, nobody appears to have sprinted across the parking lot with a welcome packet. Now Spirit wins in Iowa, takes first in the scanning, and suddenly BMWI3 Fanatic and Henusaki emerge from the shrubbery carrying league literature. Very organic, completely spontaneous. The clipboard was already printed. But the top is not the only part of this class moving violently. Top City entered last night in 11th place and left the stadium in 7th. 4 places, 1 night. The elevator skipped several floors and has not submitted an inspection certificate. Top City scored 41.65, an 8.41 point leap from its previous 33.24 on D5 at the Festival of Brass Drum Corps Show in Oswego, Illinois, and 11.24 points above its opening score on D2. At the same event, 906 Red Stars scored 41.49. The margin was 16/100ths, but the 2 cores reached it by taking completely different highways. Top City led General Effect by 1.97 and Visual by 0.60. 906 Red Stars detonated a 2.39 point advantage in Music. Top City won the total. 906 won the soundtrack. Both attempted to merge into the same lane without signaling. Top City's largest D5 to D10 gain came from GE, up 4.05. For 906 Red Stars, Micro remains the weapon, 15.40 last night in Dubuque, third highest on the official A-class snapshot. Top City now holds 7th at 41.654. 906 Red Stars is 8th at 41.486, just 0.168 behind. That is not comfortable separation. That is 1 rehearsal block and an unusually persuasive metronome. The bottom half of A-class has produced an even smaller number, some might say atomic. Atomic City Legion sits 9th at 39.160. Spirit of Valhalla sits 10th at 39.154, 6/1000ths. They have not met on tour yet, so this is not a head-to-head result, but it is the official A-class standings taking a photograph with a microscope. Spirit of Valhalla did compete in Iowa last night, rising 2.61 points from its previous score to 39.15. Atomic City Legion's latest verified score is 39.16 from Tri-Cities, Washington on D9. The standings now separate them by a number normally reserved for laboratory contamination. Above them, West Coast Guardians holds fourth at 49.200, the Steelman fifth at 47.640, and Shadow Regiment sixth at 43.927. Below them, Gulf Knights remains 11th at 36.209 after their debut at the Fog City Classic. Darcy covered all four in Concord. The current board now shows the consequences. A-Class has developed distinct competitive neighborhoods, and every property line is under dispute. So here is what we here at the McSnare Report are looking at over the next week. Can Dark Knights turn a 4.50-point explosion into sustained pressure on Dragon Core? Does Morensic's classified 57.329 survive contact with an official score sheet tonight in Salem? Can Spirit of the Raiders defend first now that White River Regiment is less than 7/10 away? And which disappears first? One of these microscopic gaps or Marcus's remaining patience with Southern Sound's color guard? The calendar holds 23 scheduled events from Thursday through next Wednesday. We still do not know which podium corps are attending them because apparently seeing the participants remains an advanced feature. We do know where the shows are. Trey is on the road, Marcus has the grid, and the entire map is about to light up. From Thursday through next Wednesday, the tour rolls through 23 scheduled events. Trey is already on the road toward Tuesday's Black Gold Invitational in Lexington, Kentucky. Marcus has the grid activated. Gentlemen, light it up.
The grid is illuminated. Trey is currently transmitting from some godforsaken stretch of asphalt, so I have preemptively lowered my expectations. Try not to bore us, Trey.
Righteous. Marcus, I hear you loud and clear. The road is wide open, the breeze is epic, and this week is absolutely stacked. We are lighting up the country. One show at a time, my man. Thursday kicks off with a totally rad three-piece. Innovations in Brass in Akron, Ohio. The Cedarburg Music Festival in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. And Core Encore in Ogden, Utah. Then Friday swells up with a four-show set, dude. The Midwest Classic in DeKalb, Illinois. The Whitewater Classic in Whitewater, Wisconsin. The marching.art Capital Classic Core Show in Sacramento, California, and Marching.art Mile High in Fort Collins, Colorado, director hosted by the legend Drewski, defending podium champion and director of Altitude. Saturday rolls in with three massive shows, and the grid is getting intense. Drums Along the Rockies in Denver, Colorado, Crown Beat in Lexington, South Carolina, and Show of Shows in Rockford, Illinois. Then Sunday catches no breaks, adding four more sick events to the lineup. Summer Music Games in Cincinnati, Throwing Down in Fairfield, Ohio. The Diablo Valley Classic in Pleasant Hill, California. River City Rhapsody in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And the Real Steel Marching Invitational in Pueblo, Colorado, director hosted by my guy, I'm Rye.
14 shows down, 9 still looming like a tedious gray cloud. The map is surviving, barely. The nation's bus drivers have unionized in my nightmares and are begging for the sweet release of a detour. Please continue reading, Trey. We haven't got all century.
No detours here, boss. Nothing but good vibes and green lights. Monday cruises in with 3 stops. Music in Motion, Central Jersey and Jackson, New Jersey. Red Stick Thunder in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And marching.art St. Louis County in St. Louis, Missouri. Director hosted by the homie, Aaron0316. Director of the Dark Knights. Tuesday is the exact swell I am paddling toward right now. Thunder in Oregon and Ontario, Oregon. Celebration in Brass in Waukee, Iowa. And my personal mecca, the Black Gold Invitational in Lexington, Kentucky. Director hosted by BMW i3 Fanatic. Dude, if my GPS yells at me about my route one more time, I'm tossing it out the window and navigating by the stars. Next Wednesday closes the set with 3 final stops. The Esperanza Experience in San Diego, California, Thunder in Boise, Idaho, and marching.art Fort Wayne in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
23 scheduled events, 23 points on my perfectly curated map. Mercifully, we are spared the indignity of an imaginary attendance list. That is all.
The grid is fully stoked, my dudes. Lexington, I am riding this wave all the way into Black Gold country. Catch you on the flip side, Phil, before Marcus completely kills my mellow.
Thanks, guys. And for the viewers at home, if you haven't already, go to the schedule page and sign up for a director-hosted event this week. 23 events ahead, 2 classes of corps jockeying for position with no personal space, and 1 national map currently under observation. We will be back next Wednesday with the scores, the movement, and the consequences. For Darcy, Lexi, Trey, Marcus, and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Phil McSnare. We hope the week ahead is filled with good times and much laughter. Thank you for watching. Until next time, we'll see you on the 50.